Poland's parliament has approved a law that opponents say will strengthen the government's grip on the media. The new law will restrict non-European ownership on television channels. The government says the law is needed to stop what it calls hostile foreign powers taking control of its broadcasters. But critics see it as an attempt to push the US company Discovery to sell the country's biggest television network, TVN, where we can speak to Wawrzyniec Smoczyński live from Warsaw. He's the Director of Social Studies at SWPS University, also a founder of Polityka Insight. Good to talk to you. The vote happened yesterday. It was rather a shambolic way through the vote. What do you say to people who perhaps were watching and said that the government was very keen on getting the vote to go through, getting what they want out of the vote?
Hello, Kasia. It's great to be again at BBC News. I wanted to say that, essentially the vote yesterday was a test vote for Mr. Kaczynski after the breakup of his coalition, which happened a day earlier. Mr. Kaczynski has forced out of the coalition Mr. Jarosław Gowin, the head of the junior coalition party, Porozumienie. And the vote, which was prepared for several months on the changes to ownership rules for TV stations and media companies in Poland, essentially was put forward in order to test his new coalition arrangement or his new technical majority, which he has had in the Sejm. And as we have seen yesterday, as the vote progressed, it was indeed a shambolic political situation. The opposition managed to push through a vote on delaying the whole session of Parliament and the vote on the TV station to September. They succeeded actually in securing that delay, but the Speaker of the Sejm, which is a person from PIS, from Mr. Kaczynski's party, has deemed the vote non-valid and has rescheduled a new vote in which this delay was essentially binned. And later in the afternoon, Mr. Kaczynski managed to cobble together a technical majority in order to pass what is now called the Lex TVN, a bill which is aimed directly at the American owners of the largest TV station in Poland, TVN, which also happens to own a news TV channel called TVN24, which has been adamantly critical of the current government, pointing out failures in terms of rule of law to the government.
I wonder if you can help us to understand then, because the government, the Law and Justice Party, is saying that they are protecting Polish media outlets from, say, Russian influence and Chinese influence. But of course, this does massively impact TVN, headed by Discovery. Now the United States are getting involved, the State Department is commenting on this. Do you think this will change the way the upper chamber, and then when it goes back down to the lower chamber, the way this bill will go through?
Well, first, there is no substance to any fears. There is no threat of any new ownership coming from, say, Russia, China, or North Korea to take over a news outlet in Poland. The one entity that will be affected by that change is Discovery Inc. And hence the law is being termed also by experts as Lex TVN, a law directly aimed at the owners of a channel which is criticizing the current government within the scope of freedom of speech in Poland. Now, regarding the pressure that you mentioned, there has been talk in recent weeks that the US has unofficially threatened personal sanctions on the leadership of the Law and Justice Party if Discovery indeed becomes squeezed out of the Polish media market. We have two steps ahead of us. First is the Senate, which will convene in the first or second week of September and will most probably reject the law. Then the law will go back to Parliament, where Parliament, in order to reject the veto from the Senate, would have to gather an absolute majority, which will be more difficult for Mr. Kaczynski to cobble together than the simple majority that he worked on yesterday. And if that happens, then the law still has to be signed into law by the president, which most probably will happen, though the president still disposes of two rights. First, the law, his right to veto the bill, which would probably end the life of the law. And the other option would be for him to send it to the Constitutional Tribunal, which is under political control from PIS. And this ally would probably simply delay the coming into force of the law. Now, you asked whether the U.S. has leverage in Poland. It definitely does have, not only because it intends to protect its investments in Poland, and TVN is the largest private investment by a U.S. company in Poland. It also has troops stationed here. Now, Mr. Kaczynski seems to be bent on pushing the law through for two reasons. First, he is clearly eyeing early elections in Poland. He knows those elections are somewhere down the road, either by the end of this year or early next year. So earlier than initially in 2023 would be the scheduled date. And secondly, he sees that vote, so having an anti-government news channel taken off air would obviously help him campaigning.
Indeed. Wawrzyniec, I'm so sorry to interject there, but we are running out of time. But we get the thrust of your argument there, Wawrzyniec Smoczyński. As that bill passes through the Polish legal system, we will be back with you. Wawrzyniec Smoczyński, the founder of Polityka Insight. A lot more detail on this particular draft bill on our website as well, affecting Poland.